Hi, Randy with Realign by Randy here. Today's exercise sequence that I recorded is from the book Pain Free at Your PC, written by Pete Egoscue, and this is all about posture therapy. So the menu that I chose from here is for Power PC users. And when we're saying PC, we're really just talking about digital devices. It's all about using our laptops, iPads, or phones a lot. And so we need to sort of realign, reset the body. So for this class, you will need a yoga mat or a towel on the floor, a wall space, and a yoga strap if you have it, or a robe tie will work. Something for a firm strap, not a stretchy strap that you can just tie around your legs. Minimally used during this routine, so if you don't have it, it's okay. You can just skip that one, but see what you can find around the house. An old jump rope. Enjoy the menu. So we're in this position. We will use our strap or our rope tie as we go, not for the first exercise. And so let's just leave that by us. So that could be a yoga strap with a loop or a rope tie, not a stretchy band. So when we get into static back in this position, we're 90-90. So I added this pad to help make my 90-90. Now you can do the same thing with a chair and put pillows, a folded blanket, different ways to adjust the height. You can sort of move your body away if you need to try to help create the angle. And then you get your arms out to the side, 45 degrees away from the body, palms up. And that way gravity's acting upon our chest, our hips, and it's allowing our muscles to react and let go. And it sort of evens the body out. And a lot of times just our symptoms are coming from muscle imbalance. And so if you have a joint that is already arthritic, or you have a curve in your spine at all these things are going to make it that your body just isn't going to tolerate being out of balance as well as, let's say, a young 12-year-old or 18-year-old that has none of these things. They can sort of let their body slouch more before they're going to get their symptoms, but eventually it is likely to catch up. But when you have these other issues, your body really needs more balance to keep it out of symptoms. Okay, so we've kind of lied here, settled in. We're going to add in some breathing. And so we're going to inhale and then exhale and then tighten your abdominals. And we're going to do a good 2 sets of 10 here, something like that as a starting. So inhale, exhale, and contract. Now you may be at your own pace as you go. And to add some things, as you let the air come up, it wants to go into your belly. We don't want to be up into our chest as much. I'm trying to keep going and share some tips here. We want the air to also go into our sides and our back. So and then we exhale it out. And then just to add a little bit about the pelvic floor, this is so important for some symptoms that could be happening in your lower back or your buttocks area, or just pelvic floor symptoms like maybe leaking or feeling pain, or just feeling like you have to run to get to the restroom. Adding into this breathing, when you inhale, kind of exhale, let your pelvic floor relax at the end, and then exhale it out and contract. I might have said that sort of out of order. It's inhale, expand, pelvic floor relaxes, exhale, and contract. So that we're still going here. So this is just sort of adding in a little bit of a piece of detail to this sort of sequence that we're following today. And this is, again, this is sort of like stretching from inside out, letting the muscles even out. It's so common for our back rector muscles, muscles right on the sides of our spine to sort of be doing different things. And that just causes a lot of tension on problems. So it could be that both sides are really tight or one is tighter than the other. And in some cases, those muscles aren't really working well. But right now we're trying to just get everything settled. So the point of this menu is if you are somebody who's using digital devices a lot, this is a menu you could do in the morning or in the evening. And then there's kind of some stuff that you can do while working, but this is not meant to be done while you're working. This is sort of a before after sequence. Okay. I feel like we've gotten a good amount of those in. And now we are going to go to, I'm just keeping us on track. We are going to go to our strap. And we're going to do something a little bit different than in my class that we normally do. We're going to put the strap around and we're actually going to put our knees together and pull our feet apart. Again, this is sort of a more traditional way that Pete Egoscue started working. And so it's kind of nice to try things in different ways. So in this, my knees are together and my feet are pulled apart. So it's forming an angle. And now I'm doing abductor presses where I'm pulling out on the strap, out and then release. So it's out and release. And the effort is about 70%, meaning you're not pulling as hard as you can. The key to that is if you pull too hard, is if one side is stronger than the other, then that sort of overpowers the weaker side. By going a little less hard, you can allow a weaker side to sort of catch up, and it just allows both sides to work better. So we're aiming for 3 sets of 20 here. After you've done 20, you can always take a moment and stop, and then you can sort of reset your legs if you want, or you can keep going. This one is one that I find people can keep going, but sometimes just that resetting, I'm going to let go for a second and do that and reset my pulling of my legs out, because the reset just allows that alignment to be just right. That's the key to doing Egoscue and why it's a little bit different than physical therapy and other types of exercise, is we are just really focused on this, using the floor, whatever we can to create certain angles, positions of our hands, our feet, all things to allow the body to react evenly. So when we do a yoga class, there's a lot of that same concept, but you know, sometimes it's more about the pose. This is very much about just lining up everything evenly. We're using very similar exercises. Okay, I'm going to reset one more time. I'm letting my legs go together. And again, if this bothers you in any way, you can go a little wider and you can just pull out. If you happen to be severely knocked knees and you don't feel comfortable with this, you can loosen your strap, put a little more space between your knees, and you can do this. Now, if it's not bothering you, it's okay. We're hitting different muscle groups, hitting the hips in a certain angle. So we are almost finished with our 3rd set, or at least I am. And then I'm going to I have my little list over here, and we will be standing up after this. Okay. All right. So we are going to take our strap off. And typically I don't have socks on, so I'm gonna keep going with that. Take them off. I'm gonna move my equipment out of the way. Feet are going to standing. Okay, so we're going to parallel our feet. And this is a big thing with Egoscue exercises is we parallel our feet by the outsides and we are hip width apart, not this hip width apart. That's why that's sort of by the outsides. And then we're gonna clasp our hands and reach in front and we're gonna go up. Now, if you have a shoulder issue, I'm gonna move a little further back. If you have a shoulder issue, you're gonna modify this. If you feel okay, you're gonna go all the way up. Again, we want the elbows straight. So if you find they're breaking, I would go lower to the point where you can, and this is stuff to work on. If you were to try and do this menu daily, that's an area where you can work on that. Other things to be mindful is what's happening with the hips. This is so important. So many people's hips are bailing forward. We don't even realize it. So that's a place where you can maybe try and connect to that and feel what's happening. And if you can sort of pull your hips underneath, now you can add a looking up overhead. If it bothers your neck, you can look forward. And this is about a minute that we're doing this. And so then we breathe, we relax our stomach. It's all about sort of using the right muscles and letting the other muscles go. So right now our abdominals don't need to be kicking in. We would be holding our thighs when we do that. Okay, so now we're same thing when we go into elbow curls, you can think about tightening your thighs. So this next one could be against a wall or not at a wall if you don't have a simple wall to stand on, but if you can, that's what part of the menu is to be on a wall. So feet are parallel. And again, if you almost want to have a pigeon-toed sensation, pull your heels out a little bit. That's that parallelness that we're looking for. So next is the golfer's grip. We're going to bend at first knuckle. I'm just going to give a close-up view. It's kind of interesting. It's not a grip. And it's like a really active grip. Thumbs are pointed out. If you need to, because of a wrist pain, you can modify. Bring your arms up. And now they're going to be on your temples. The key here is keeping your wrists straight. Like imagine there was a stick here and you weren't going to let it bend. Now I find some people kind of all of a sudden can't. It's just that they're holding tension up here in their traps. So you've got to let all that go so you can get this movement. Now it's okay if you can't get all the way together or all the way out. Listen to your body. But that is what we are aiming for. And again, a lot of times that is a technique thing, unless you really have an active shoulder issue. You can always do shoulder blade squeezes if for some reason this isn't working for you, if you've got something bothering you. Just a reminder, tighten your thighs. We sort of make things more of a full body exercise when we follow these extra cues. So I'm sort of loading my joints against the wall and working through the upper back position. And this is about 25, so one set at 25. My count isn't quite on as I share the details, but approximating. Okay, so now we are actually going to go down to the floor and we're going to use the wall in a different way with our legs against the wall. I just want to make sure I have our plan. Okay. All right. So this is called static wall pullbacks. Now you can take this exercise and modify it if you don't feel quite ready for the pullbacks. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into a position where our legs go up the wall. So I'm going to sort of demo what the plan is before I go in. So it would be legs are going to be up against the wall, but then the pullbacks will be a pulling of the leg this way. But if that does not feel right for you, then I will give modifications. So now for somebody whose hamstrings are super tight, it's okay if you are about a foot away from the wall to get your knees straight. Knees straight is what's most important in this exercise. So I'm away from the wall right now. My knees are straight. My feet are pulling down nice and evenly. So if you're closer to the wall and you can't pull your feet down, then you need to move away. So I can move a little closer. And again, you need to find your distance. If you can't be a foot away, then I would alter this exercise until maybe you have a little bit more hamstring length. And I would alter that to maybe just going back to the static back position and settling. Could be a place to go for the moment. Okay, so here we are, we're legs up, feet are pulling down. I'm gonna go into the actual exercise of pulling back. But if you have any pain or discomfort with this, staying in this exercise, arms out to the side, 45 degrees, palms up. You can stay here for 4 minutes and it's still a great evening of the pelvis, helps with sometimes it does help with sciatic type symptoms. So you can just stay here, tighten your thighs, pull your feet down at whatever place and hold the position. But we're gonna go ahead into the pullback. So I'm gonna start with one side. It's about 20 a side, and then we're gonna go back and forth. And you can do this at 10 instead if you feel like it is hard. I might make it look somewhat reasonable to do, but I've done a lot of aligning and I've worked on these hip muscles a lot. So I feel like they're well activated. So sometimes you might be really strong in your workouts, but sometimes the hip flexors are not doing everything they can because of their position. And so this might actually feel hard to move your leg away from the wall with this extended, tightened position. It could be the tightness in your muscles. It can be the activation of the muscle. But again, at any point, if you don't feel right, just stop and you can have your legs here. You can even bring your legs down sort of into this position with your feet together if you're just very uncomfortable. Okay, I'm going back to my other side. I'm trying to be mindful. I really want to keep my kneecap facing like towards the camera. As I looked up, I could see my leg wanted to slightly turn out. So again, this is the kind of thing where it's okay to feel pigeon-toed when you get your kneecap pointing straight ahead. So everybody's relationship of their knee to foot may be slightly different. And so you may find that your feet are turned out more with your knees straight, or vice versa. Maybe they're turned in, maybe they're perfectly straight on. And these are all the things. Some of it is structural. I'm switching sides. It might have been more than 20. But some of it is really caused by muscle imbalance and muscle pull. And these are the things that can sort of change with this kind of practice. And it's really interesting to see how your body can respond and change. But we're just stimulating a lot of muscles. I'm switching back to do my third set on each side. So this menu is for, again, that whole digital use. So it's kind of hitting the body in a lot of different ways, different positions that we may not normally be in, and kind of allowing the pelvis to do different things, upper back to settle out from being so flexed forward. That's one of the benefits of this position. There's a lot happening in our legs, but our gravity's active on our upper body. Now here's something that I did not say as a modification. If you find your head is tipping backwards when you're on the floor, you want to put a towel under your head, because you don't want to be leaning back like this when you're working on the floor. So some people would maybe need 2 small towels, some people only 1. And the key is that you can, why you would use 2 instead of a bigger towel is just being able to remove the layers as you feel some releases or through the time that you're working on these exercises. So whatever you have is fine. If it is a bigger towel, just you can change that distance by the folds, and you can make the towel, bigger, thinner, or thicker as you need to. Okay, now we are going into static extension position. I'm going to move the camera down. Okay. So we are going to go into static extension position. If you don't feel good with this, you could do something sitting in a chair and sort of roll your pelvis back and forth instead. But static extension position will be hands and knees, shoulders are directly over wrists, hips are directly over knees. And we're going to move a hand width forward. And then we're going to shift our weight so our shoulder is back over the wrist. So now my hips are in front of my knees. Now you don't want to be this far. This is not where we want to be. So be mindful that you might need to pull your hands back a little bit. Now, you draw your shoulder blades together and let your pelvis roll forward. Again, for everybody, this is going to be different. And I'm letting my head drop. Again, with any vertigo or certain issues with ringing in the ear or anything, if you don't feel comfortable dropping your head, don't do it. But this is all good for releasing the neck. It's like traction on our neck. And so I'm drawing my shoulder blades together and I'm just sort of holding this position. We're going to try to hold it for a couple minutes. And so this is going to make my hips have to kick in. So we're sort of repositioning our upper back. So really draw those shoulder blades together, but be mindful that you're out of your upper traps, your shoulders, let them come back. And then again, if you can drop your head, this is like neck traction. So there's kind of like a distraction of our head down, allowing some space in between the vertebrae and sort of allowing a release of some muscles. But again, other muscles are working hard. So if for some reason something doesn't feel right, if it's causing pain, then it's not the right exercise for you and you need to skip it or modify. So again, we are working here and drawing those shoulder blades together. Make sure you're not holding your breath. Taking a nice good breath here. And again, my feet are flat on the floor, so they're not tucked under. And a little bit longer, and then we're going to come out. Okay. All right, so now we're going to lie on the floor and we're going to do a rotational exercise. It's called upper spinal floor twist. So we'll be lying on our side and we're going to rotate open and then we'll flip sides and we'll do the other side. Okay, so we're here. And if for some reason you have any spinal issues, be mindful of that if you are not comfortable with a rotational exercise. Now, here's my little towel that I did not use before, but if you needed it, you could put it here. Again, this is actually a good neck stretch by not using the towel, but we are modifying as we need to. So again, my knees are 90-90, and this is part of the key is what's happening with the knees. So if your legs are too far down, you're not going to be able to reach them to know what's going on. So I really try and draw them up. We're not drawing them back. Then we kind of do alligator hands. I'm just making sure we can see on the camera here. That's sort of getting set, and that's going to be our ending position. But we're going to take our bottom hand and block the knees. Now it could be here, but you just want to know when they're separating. So I'm going to take this arm open, and then we're going to open up and stretch. Now, notice how I took it from here down. I'm not trying to reach down here. It does not matter if you get to the floor. If you do, great. But not at the expense of the whole thing opening up. That is, we're stabilizing here and going where we can go. And be mindful with this. If you have SI or sciatic or certain pains back in the butt, just to go slow at this. Don't rotate too far because sometimes you're just stretching an area that's very mobile. So really listen to your body as you open up and and don't go too far. And the head is looking back towards the hand. That sort of adds to it. You can breathe through your side. So inhale, really putting the air. Nice internal stretching happening. So we're doing this one for a minute. You can stay longer, a minute, minute and a half, really depends on your body. There might be one side that's so much tighter than the other. You could stay a little longer. Now, when I'm ready to be done, I'm going to bring my arm back and sort of close them up. Just so when you get out of this, you're not in a twisted position. Now you can roll over or you can flip around. I'm going to flip around just so I'm staying facing the camera. And I'm resetting. And again, I'm being mindful. If the knees are too far down, you're not going to be able to reach them. Bring your pillow around or your little towel if you were using it. And I'm putting my hands, so we start here, head down, bringing my hand to my knees so that I know that they're not separating. And then I'm opening my arm up. And again, just opening like this. So again, we're not trying to just get to the floor. And we are stretching, opening, and my head is going this way. Then I'm going to add the breathing. I'm checking back at my knees. So sometimes it's good to even just look what's happening, because most of the time when I work with clients, it's so common for them to not be aware that they're actually separating their knees. So this is an area where I give a lot of extra cueing. And so you are the one who's in charge of yourself, and you need to just do those checks. And again, that's allowing your pelvis to stabilize, and then we're sort of lengthening through the side, evening things out. And this is sort of like if your body is sort of wanting to go to one side more than the other, we're rotating it to both and sort of squeezing it out and allowing it to hopefully find a more center, even place when we come back up. And when you sit at a desk, I'm going to close back in. When you sit at a desk, you don't even realize it possibly that you are rotated more to one side, the other, because of the mouse, because of the phone, whatever it is, or even just sitting wherever with your phone. We tend to hold our body to one side. Okay, we are rolling onto our backs. And now we're going into pelvic tilts. So knees bent on the floor. Be mindful that you've got your feet hip width and parallel. You can't see them. So this is a little thing where you put your feet together, you walk your heels out, then walk your feet out. And then heels and then toes. And then we're going to roll our pelvis forward and roll it back. And you don't need to have your hands here. Your arms really are meant to be out to the side, palms up. They're 45 degrees away. I was just I'm showing the motion that's happening here at my pelvis. And again, I can go back a lot. I am somebody who really stood a lot with my pelvis tucked under. So I can easily do that. Other people who stand with a lot more arch might be like, "Ooh, I can't quite get my back to the floor so easy." So either way, we're trying to work on both directions. We need both motions to be able to happen. And this is good when we've rotated things side to side and pulled on things. This is sort of taking the pelvis and moving it together symmetrically. So it sort of helps even things out. Again, that's where when we do this posture therapy work, we do things in a sequence with a lot of purpose for why we put the order. Okay, so now we're going to go into one of my favorite things, and it does take a while, but we're going to do 5 minutes aside as part of my class and as part of this video. So what you do is you get your chair. So we are going to do what's called supine groin stretch, and I'm going to get a timer. Okay, So we take back our block or a chair, whatever you used in the beginning for your static back, but we're gonna put one leg on it and one leg straight. Now, you can, I'm gonna take my little yoga block here. You could take an ankle, a weight. You could take a book, something heavy to block your foot. I'm just gonna get myself a little repositioned so that my foot doesn't roll, my leg doesn't roll out to the side, so I can sort of relax it. Now this yoga block's pretty light, and I might be able to knock it over. A little ankle weight there might make this a little better. I'm gonna start the timer, and I am gonna get a little weight that I have, just so we can really get a feel as I cue everyone. And that will help with that. So this could be done for 15 minutes, 20 minutes aside, even longer when people first start. Again, if it's causing you pain, not the place to be. Then you would go back to both legs on the block. Arms are out to the side, palms up. So this is sort of a very foundational thing to posture therapy, a foundational exercise. And kneecaps to the ceiling as best as possible. But this leg is relaxed, and you can sort of check on what's happening with your low back on both sides. Are they touching the floor? Are they not touching the floor? As you stay here, that may be more relaxed. And then there's an interesting little leg test. Tighten your thigh, and you may feel more of the contraction at the lower leg by your knee. And after we've done our 5 minutes, we're going to check it again, and you might feel something different. So we're going to go through that. And I'll just let you know, we have another 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And again, this is a place, if you have that whole neck issue where you put your towel under your head, hands or palms up. And again, hopefully over time, you'd be able to lower, but you will find that this area can release better if you're not doing this. That sort of makes the body go into more of a guarding tendency and sort of want to contract rather than relax. So we want to promote more of the alignment so we can get our natural curves in our spine. We have sort of the neck curve goes one way, the same way as our low back, and then our upper back kind of goes the other way. So a lot of times you'll hear from doctors when people are x-rayed that the curve has reversed or straightened out, sort of like military-ish. And this is happening because of the pulls of the muscles. So this is where we're trying to allow the body to go back to its any joint, its natural alignment, and the muscles around it in sort of an even state so they can work properly. They actually engage better when they're at their optimal position versus when they're too tight and short, or they're sort of stretched out long because of positioning. Either way makes them not as effective in working. So, and right now, just, check in with the leg. Is it rolling out too much? Just sort of relax down. Another thing to point out is about the palms up. This all has to do with that rounding of the shoulders, and something that I saw working with people over the years. In the past, I did some whole health, and I would sometimes work with people in their 80s and 90s, and I found a lot of people got to a point where they could no longer open up their palms completely, that their hands were contracted, their muscles were so shortened that they could no longer achieve this position, even with some stretching. When you leave muscles for extended periods of time, the fibers sort of shorten and bound down. And again, when you do that for years, it really is tough to go back the other way. So I feel like this is so important for all of us, our computer, our digital. We want our hands to be able to open up and our palms to be able to open up. That helps with our rounded shoulders. I'm going to check on our time. Okay, we've got 34 seconds. And so go ahead and take a tighten of the leg right now. It really is very interesting to me that this position, we really haven't done anything, but you can engage your thigh differently as this happens. So when you do this on both sides, and you sometimes stay a little longer or more regularly doing this, it's surprising how the muscles of your legs can engage differently when walking. So, all right, we're going to switch sides. Okay, so I'm moving my little yoga block and weight. To the other side. And I'm just thinking you might not be able to see. Maybe as I go now, you can see my foot. I'm going to move it in a little bit. You just want to take your moment to get your alignment right. Again, trying to make it where your leg is not pulling out to the side, nice and straight. So I'm pulling everything over to get everything situated. And then I put my arms out to the head. We will start our timer. And do your little tighten on the leg that's down and sort of check in where that contraction is. Especially, it's also good to see differences in sides. And then again, you're readjusting with your towel if you need to. And this might be a time to check if you had a bigger towel, can you take a layer of it and unfold it and kind of flip it behind you? And maybe you've got some release happening in your chest area and in these muscles up in your neck. Okay, here we go. So we have begun our 5 minutes. I'm just checking things in. So we'll talk a little bit more about during the day with all of our digital computer use, phone use, is just reminders to reposition yourself so that your head is looking up. It's not looking, if you keep looking down, take time, hold your phone up so that you can kind of give your neck a break and let your arms do a little bit more of the work and hold your phone up to look at it. Stretch, put your phone down, stretch your fingers and hands in all different ways. Especially we text a lot, and we text sometimes more with one hand than the other. And we're holding the phone, so we're definitely doing some different things. Some people are very good at texting with both hands, and then other people, it's easier to do one-sided. So just remember, it's no different than playing tennis. The racket's always in the one hand, except for when you do backhand. When you're always holding the phone one way and typing in the other or swiping, each shoulder is doing something different. And the muscles are engaged differently. So we want to do things that bring them back with the opening, closing of the hands, or stretching our wrists out, all these things. Consider each part of your body as needing to be taken care of just the way you brush your teeth twice a day. Just some proper movement of the joints and stretching of the muscles. Any little movement you can do is beneficial, as long as it's not hurting. And again, if you're in this position and something's bothering you, you can try legs both on the block and see if that works instead. Okay, I'm doing a little time check, see how we're doing. We have 2 minutes and 15 seconds left. Again, I'm rechecking my arms, make sure those hands aren't starting to curl up on you. So common when I'm working with clients. Bring them back out and sort of let everything go. Make sure you're not holding your breath. Make sure you're breathing. It's a very common thing to do, especially when we're concentrating on something. That's a great thing to do during the workday, is to stop and stand and breathe, or stop and sit up nice and breathe for 30 seconds. Just take some nice deep breaths. Stand up and walk around. Take breaks from repetitively sitting. Just give your body some different movements. We call it pattern busters in posture therapy. And doesn't matter what you call it, just do different movements. And so hopefully in doing any of this type of posture therapy work, you get these tendencies that you just think about it during the day, and it prompts you to sort of throw things in and not stay in one position too much. So, but we can see this position is nice. We are lengthening the front of our hip, or just giving a pull, a different pull between the two leg bones. And when we walk, we need this separation. So this is being in one position, but letting gravity act on us in a different direction than we normally are, standing or sitting, where gravity is sort of crunching us forward. If we let our head go forward, gravity is helping that. So we have to work against that. And by keeping your head upright, it's easier because you're right in the middle. As soon as you start bending forward, it's easier to crumple that way, versus the forces are better when we're all the way upright and balanced. Okay, take that last contraction of your leg and see if you feel like you get a better contraction through the whole leg. So you're just tightening your thigh. Okay, we are coming out of this position, and we are going to go to an air bench. So that will be back up and standing. And this is the last exercise. So again, this is one. Safety is really important with this exercise. You either need to have sneakers on, be mindful of what your floor surface is. You can be on a yoga mat and bare feet. So we're kind of going into this position. I'm going to give you some more direction here. But sneakers on a certain floor will give you good grip. So just be mindful, safety, super important. How to get out of it is sort of pushing off with your hands if you're feeling stuck. So the full position is we're going all the way down, and then we're pressing our low back into the wall. Now the angle that is formed here and with the ankle, depending on which book you read, sometimes it will say 105 or 90. So approximate that. And again, I find if people are having issues and they're still a little bit more acute, you can start in a position like this, not as far down. Again, this is meant to be a 2-minute exercise. I did not grab my timer, but we've already begun. So this is one of those exercises that if you do 30 seconds, it's great. If you do a minute, even better. But that 30 seconds still gives your body some of what you need. So if for some reason you can't do the 2 minutes, then you want to start with the 30 seconds. If not, you can substitute with knee pillow squeezes. Again, it all depends on what's going on with your body, what types of problems you have going, knee pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, what's going on, back pain. A lot of times with back pain, this can feel good. Knee pain, you might want to be careful about how far down you go. So it all depends. Obviously, if you have a shoulder issue, hopefully this wouldn't be an issue. So we are going to come out soon based on my fatigue factor, and I don't want to slide down. And that's what happens if you start fatiguing, you will slide down. So that is the end of our PC user sequence.